The man came home after a tough year in the army, excited to see his family again. He looked around for his cheerful child, but instead of the lively boy he remembered, he found his child quiet and shy. 45-year-old Gerald Johnson returned home to Illinois after serving in the army, eager to see his family. When he walked through the front door, he expected hugs and kisses, but the house felt strangely cold. He called out happily, "I'm home," but his excitement quickly faded when he noticed a change in his son Tommy's behavior. To his surprise, the house was eerily silent. He found Tommy in the living room, staring blankly at the TV. The once lively 11-year-old now seemed like a shadow of his former self, withdrawn, reserved, and absent. Concerned, Gerald tried to talk to Tony, but his son's responses were just whispers, far from the joyful chatter he remembered. Growing more alarmed, Gerald called his wife, Susan, who was still at work as a nurse at the hospital. He poured his heart out about Tommy's changed behavior, seeking her reassurance and insight. To his bewilderment, Susan dismissed his concerns, claiming that everything was fine and Tommy was just going through a phase. She was the one who was taking care of him, so she should know. Days turned into weeks, and Gerald noticed the strain on Tommy's face intensifying. It was as if a thick fog had settled between them, obscuring the connection they once shared. Desperate for answers, Gerald attempted to bridge the gap by spending quality time with Tony. He suggested fishing trips, bike rides, and even a camping adventure, but Tony remained distant, lost in the maze of his own thoughts. Frustrated, Gerald confronted Susan about the issue again. To his surprise, she still seemed uninterested and detached. Her attention was consumed by financial matters, and she had grown accustomed to a life of relative independence during Gerald's absence. When Gerald questioned her about Tony's behavior, she simply shrugged it off, accusing him of overreacting and being out of touch with the reality of their lives. As days turned into nights, the once loving couple found themselves in a silent conflict. Gerald, longing for normalcy, found comfort in memories of their happy family. Meanwhile, Susan resented Gerald's return, seeing it as an intrusion on her new independence. Arguments became frequent, and Tony, caught in the middle, withdrew even more. Gerald had come home after years in the army, excited to reunite with his family. This was not the welcome he expected. For a year, he had missed them. His joy was mixed with worry as he saw how much his son had changed. Was it because he had been away? It hurt Gerald to see his once vibrant and happy boy now withdrawn and reserved. The once cheerful 11-year-old seemed depressed. Determined to understand why, Gerald set up a hidden camera in their home. Days passed before Gerald had the courage to watch the video footage. Despite being home from the army, he still worked at the army office in town. As he watched the recordings, his shock grew. Tony was seen standing outside, hesitant to enter the house. Gerald's mind was filled with questions. Where was his mother? Was the door locked? Why wasn't Tony coming inside? He watched the footage several times. This strange behavior continued for days, making Gerald more worried about his son's well-being. He considered taking more time off work to be there for his son. One evening, Gerald came home early from work. He approached Tony cautiously. "Hey, buddy, everything okay?" he asked, trying to mask the unease in his voice. At first, the boy jumped when he was spoken to. Tony averted his gaze, mumbling, "Yeah, Dad, just tired." He continued watching TV, his eyes fixed on the screen. But he didn't believe him. Gerald's concern only intensified. That night, he scrutinized the hidden camera footage once more, searching for clues. Tommy always did the same thing after school. The tension built as the days unfolded, and Tommy's mysterious behavior continued. Gerald couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. He wanted his son to be happy again. Desperation pushed Gerald to confront Tony directly. "What's going on, son? You've been acting strange lately," he pleaded. His son looked guilty. Tony hesitated before finally confessing, "Dad, I miss you when you're gone. I just stand there, hoping you'll come home sooner." Was he telling the truth, or was he just trying to get his father off his back? Gerald's heart sank, realizing the toll his military service had taken on his young son. The revelation led to heartfelt conversations and a promise from Gerald to be more present in Tony's life. As their bond strengthened, the hidden camera became a tool he used to check up on his son. Gerald swapped his late nights at the office and replaced them with open communication between father and son. Gerald chalked up Tony's behavior to the challenges of growing up. As time passed, the once mysterious actions began to make sense. Gerald reflected on the journey, realizing that his son was simply navigating the tricky path of adolescence. With a bittersweet smile, he accepted that Tony was indeed just a teeny bopper growing up, and he vowed to cherish every moment they had together. But was it just that, or was there something else? The military father tried to understand his son's unusual behavior, but after several days, he started to worry. Desperate for answers, Gerald called his wife, but she claimed she didn't know what he was talking about and couldn't come home because she was stuck at work. Gerald's anxiety grew. One evening, while checking the surveillance footage, he saw a 911 vehicle parked outside his house, and his wife wasn't answering her phone. Panic set in as he rushed home, fearing for his son's safety. When he arrived, he saw emergency vehicles and asked the paramedics what happened. They explained that Tony had tried to jump over the gate to get into the house and had fallen. Neighbors had seen the accident and quickly called for help. Gerald felt relieved and grateful as he thanked the neighbors and took Tony inside. He asked Tony about his mother, who had the house keys. Tony revealed that his mom kept forgetting to pick him up from school, leaving him to walk home alone without a cell phone. Gerald was shocked and angry at this revelation. Later that night, Gerald sat by Tony's bedside, thinking about what had happened. He felt a mix of relief, gratitude, and frustration. He realized his son was growing up and facing the challenges of adolescence, but was afraid to tell his father about his mother's neglect because he felt his father couldn't always be there for him. When Gerald finally heard his wife's car pull into the driveway, he confronted her about neglecting Tony. The argument escalated with accusations flying, and her excuses seemed weak in the face of Tony's difficult experience. Anger and confusion mingled within Gerald as he spoke to his wife. Confrontation loomed, and he wondered how a mother could be so negligent. His son, once carefree and happy, had become a casualty of her forgetfulness. As Gerald thought about everything that had happened, he realized his son was just a young teenager going through the challenges of growing up. Despite the shock and frustration, Gerald understood that his family needed healing, and he became even more committed to their well-being. The hidden camera had shown not only Tony's strange behavior, but also the problems within their family that needed fixing. With Tony recovering from his injuries and the truth out in the open, Gerald and Susan faced the tough job of rebuilding their family. It was a wake-up call, making them see how much they had neglected their family because of work and military duty. But even in the chaos, there was hope, a chance to start fresh and make their family a priority. Gerald promised to be more involved in Tony's life, and Susan vowed to pay more attention and care. As they worked through their problems, Gerald and Susan found the importance of communication and support in their marriage. They went to counseling, learned to rely on each other during hard times, and made an effort to put their family first. Their journey was difficult, but with love and determination, they began to rebuild the trust and connection that had been damaged by years of neglect and misunderstanding. The accident served as a harsh lesson for both Gerald and Susan, a reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of cherishing every moment with loved ones. They promised to always appreciate their family and support each other no matter what. Although they still had scars from the past, they felt stronger and ready to face the future together, knowing they could handle anything as long as they had each other. With time, Tony's physical wounds healed, and his emotional scars began to fade. The memories of that difficult day remained, but he found comfort in his parents' constant love and support. Together, they started a journey of healing and growth, creating an unbreakable bond. They knew their family was now stronger and more resilient. As weeks and months passed, the Johnson family grew even closer. With open hearts and strong determination, they faced the future together, ready for any challenges. They knew that as long as they had each other, they could overcome any obstacles. Guided by love, they moved towards a brighter and happier future, leaving the shadows of the past behind.